And good evening to you at home and welcome to our special pre-election show. My name is Tabi Sositole. Unfortunately, my co-presenter, Leanne Menace, is not with us this evening, but she will be back with us again on Monday. And yet again, to our viewers, thank you very much for your SMSs. Keep them coming. And don't forget, send them to 33726. And remember to begin your message with the word elect, followed by the rest of your comment, and that SMS will cost you about R1.50 each. You can also follow this broadcast on our website, SABCnews.com. But first, let's begin the show with a wrap of today's latest election news. Again, it's compiled for us by Richard Ingram.
With less than 2 weeks to go to the local government elections, the campaign trail is hotting up, not only for the party leaders, but for the voters as well. The Nelson Mandela Bay Metro has become a strongly contested area as predictions surface that the no vote could mean a coalition council. In recent weeks, heavyweights from various parties have tried to lure voters, and they're still on the hunt for votes in this formerly traditional ANC stronghold. Today was no exception.
I believe that voters must take responsibility. They have the power, they have the vote. They put politicians into power, and if those politicians abused their power and were corrupt, then voters have the responsibility to vote them out.
In recent weeks, the ANC is engaged in vigorous campaigning here, and today the party's head of policy, Jeff Gadebe, went door to door.
We are confident that the ANC is going to retain the metro of Nelson Mandela. There is no doubt in our mind that we are going all out to retain the majority of this metropolitan council. But on a case-by-case basis, the ANC is not opposed in entering into a coalition.
Smaller parties have also brought in the heavyweights, not ruling out that they could be a major role player if a coalition was needed.
The Freedom Front policy is that we believe in coalitions, and we believe Nelson Mandela Metropole will be a coalition after the election. There's no doubt in my mind.
In Kimberley, the Congress of the People, or COPE, has laid a charge of malicious damage to property against the SACP for allegedly defacing its election posters. COPE says some were removed, while posters of the SACP asking voters to support the ruling party were glued over its posters.
This is a conduct that must not be allowed in a democracy, because in a democracy we've got people have got fair competition. There must be fair competition. People have got a right to put up their posters.
In Cape Town, small business leadership has endorsed Tony Ehrenreich as the ANC's mayoral candidate.
We support the kind of leadership provided by Tony Ehrenreich in the convening of this conference and in getting the national ministers to work with local business. As a significant sector of business in Cape Town, we believe the kind of leadership provided by Tony is what is lacking in the city presently, and support his campaign to be the mayor of Cape Town.
In Johannesburg, the ANC today claimed it's making inroads in Democratic Alliance areas.
With its policies having been exposed as racially polarizing the South African society, the DA has now been put on a back foot in the Western Cape, where the city of Cape Town has violated human rights and the dignity of blacks by building unenclosed toilets in Makaza Township of the Cape Flats.
And on the East Rand, the APC took its campaign to the impoverished areas of Thokoza.
They are overlooked by everybody. They've been neglected for the past 10, 15 years. They've been staying here, and you can see it's almost as if they don't belong to any municipality in this country.
Now, excitement is building up over the upcoming local government elections, and today we focus on the plight of the disabled members of our community and the progress made with women's rights. Janji Chauke has compiled this report for the program.
Themba Cebekulu lost his ability to walk as a child after suffering from polio. Now confined to a wheelchair for most of his life, Cebekulu is very vocal about the rights of people with disabilities.
Njengoba kuzwa kuma election there's ziningi izinto abasithembisa zona kodwa masiza kubantu abakhubazekile eminyakeni endlule abantu abakhubazekile ababenefiti ikakhulukazi kubenefita labo nalabo.
His organization, Disabled People South Africa, or DPSA, is advocating the rights of people with disabilities and their integration in all spheres of South African society. but challenges are many.
Sinenkinga kakhulu ngama-police station. Ema-police station sinabantu la kwa-DPSA abangeze sibabiza ngokuthi deaf, abantu ama-deafs. So those kind of people kuba nenkinga kakhulu mangabe lo muntu loyo mhlambe uhlukumeziwe. And manje police station thole ukuthi akuna la angakhuluma nomuntu khona, because most of the time basebenzisa i-sign language.
From people with disabilities to women's issues, South Africa's democracy has come a long way. Government has even set up a ministry on women, children and people with disabilities. But it's mainly achievements at the local sphere of government upon which central government will be judged. Nongcedile Toyise is a mother of 5. She does not have formal employment, but her expectations remain high.
Mina i-government ngifuna nje ukuqala indinikeze indawo yohlala. Yazi uma ungaya la ngihlala khona ngihlala kwi-1 room. Manje manganginikeza indlu ngihlale nalabo abantwana kule ndlu. Ndingathi hallelujah kuleyo ndawo.
On the other side of town, Marilyn Williams also has views about the elections and what she thinks politicians should deliver on.
As a woman that's having my own small little business, the major challenge is finance, support and advertising. You know, like we can be qualified to do the same type of business, but in the big companies with their money, they can afford to advertise on the big billboards and on television. And even with us, it's not fair game because we don't have that finance.
I think in terms of our representation of women at national level, we've certainly gone a long way. We're sitting at approximately 42% women in our national parliament, and that's great. You know, we have made that effort, and it would have been nice if we were close to 50 and if we had a woman president, but we don't. These are some things we should aspire to.
For now, for people like Nongcedile Toyise and Themba Cebekhulu, it's one step at a time until politicians make good on their promises. Janji Chauke, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, you're watching our pre-election special program right on SABC2. Don't go away, short break, and we're going to have more election news after this.
It's time for more big deals during Game's birthday.
Make sure you have your game leaflets and a phone ready to win another 20,000 Rand game gift card.
Get the Samsung 13kg top loader plus a 3kg pack of Omo Auto for only $2,599.
Get this brilliant Sony 40-inch Full HD LCD TV for an unbelievable $5,499.
This 15-inch Acer dual-core notebook with 500 gig hard drive is now only $3,999.
Get the Samsung E250 plus a 3,000 Rand game shopping voucher on Vodacom everyday contract, or a 389 plus 29 Rand airtime voucher on prepaid. Don't forget to insure your phone with Game. See in store for details.
Got your leaflet and a phone ready? It's time for you to win big. What is the guarantee on the silver Samsung 13kg washing machine? SMS your answer to 33161 or enter online at game.co.za.
Hurry, SMS lines close in 1 hour.
Don't forget to join us on another round of What's the Big Deal every Wednesday and Thursday night right here at 6:10. Later.
Remember me when I make you look back at me in disbelief, with your bulging eyes and your open mouth. I knew you'd never believe it, and the softest things are the lovely things, and I'd only ask you one thing. Forget me not.
Few things come softer than Twin Saver's new and improved luxury 2-ply toilet paper.
Twin Saver.
Welcome back. You're watching our special pre-election program right here on SABC2, and we're coming to you live from our studios in Johannesburg. Now, are municipalities doing enough to address the plight of disabled people? Let's hear what you have to say.
Government take hona ntse ele ka hore e etsa hore most of the facility di be accessible for batho ba disabled, mare hona le mo in certain areas mo ke fumanang hore ba ntse ba salletse morao.
Tabeng ya hona jwale mme ke bona batho ba masepala ba sa kgathalle hakalo hobane boholo ba dihloko tse re di batlang ha ba re fihlelle ho tsona. Boholo ba ntho e ke buang ka yona ke bua ka taba ya matlo. Rona batho ba disabled ha ba re tsotelle hakalo tabeng ya matlo.
Dan die municipality mense voel vir ons en hulle dink van ons en hulle moet maar net terugkom 'n bietjie en vra vir ons waar die probleme lê.
Our sidewalks here in Park Road, where we have the Jean Weber is in a terrible state. I think they can fix that up for us.
Now we're joined in studio by Minister of Women, Children and People with Disabilities, Mamulu Lukangwana. Mama, good evening, Minister, and welcome to our show.
Good evening and good evening to the listeners.
Now, as you can see, mixed reaction, a lot of people saying, yes, we are getting the sufficient need, but more can be done.
Yes, I think in the last 17 years, government has done a lot to, first of all, introduce policies and strategies that will advance the rights and concerns of people with disabilities. For instance, we have ratified, in fact, we were one of the first countries to ratify the UN Convention on People with Disabilities. We have ensured that as we fight for women's representation in decision-making, we also ensure that people with disabilities are also included. We have ensured, as we fight for economic empowerment of women and other groups that have been marginalized, we also have targets for people with disabilities. And I believe that in Parliament, we have women with disabilities. In our provinces, we have women with disabilities. Yes, we're not doing well in municipalities, but we are now fighting to ensure that as we move to the 50% representation in this election, we also ensure that women with disabilities are included.
Now, Mam Kungwan, the IEC has also announced that, for example, with this coming election, that ballot papers will also be available in Braille for those of our voters who are not sighted. This is obviously a good step for you.
It is a good step, and we want to commend the IEC that has heeded the call by people with disabilities and ensured that our ballot is also accessible for Braille users. We are also aware that a number of programs have been initiated. In fact, in our provinces, we have ABET programs where people, particularly women with disabilities, are able to learn how to read and write, and that also includes Braille training. And that has been paid for by our government. We are also ensuring that in terms of economic empowerment, there are projects in agriculture where women with disabilities and young people with disabilities are included. In the Eastern Cape, in Limpopo in particular. I know in the Northern Cape a farm has been bought by the Premier for people, for women with disabilities.
I think the other question would be then, what do the municipalities do? I mean, they are the ones who are actually in touch with the people, because that's first port of call of municipalities. Are they doing enough, or what can be done better in terms of their facilitation of making life easy for women, children, and those with disabilities?
In terms of our policy strategy, we have mainstreamed people with disabilities in all sectors of government, and we are also fighting to ensure that even within the private sector that happens. That means we have the ministry that has been introduced by the president since 2009, which is a ministry that focuses in protecting and defending the rights of women, children, and people with disabilities. We have offices on the status of women, children, and people with disabilities in the provinces, in the premier's offices. But we also say we need these structures in the offices of the mayors. That is where the challenge is, because these structures are not there in terms of municipalities. And as a result, the programs and the projects that have been initiated at national and provincial level, we still have a challenge to ensure that we reach out within the municipalities.
You spoke about the private sector. Have they embraced the fact that they need to do a bit more in terms of facilitating all of these aspects that you're speaking about? I mean, do we see the private sector coming on board and meeting government somewhere in helping extra, ramps for people with wheelchairs, braille elevators? I mean, it's the simple things that just make a difference.
Well, our government has done well in certain aspects of our programs. For instance, we have ensured that most of the government buildings, perhaps 95% of them, are accessible, have got ramps. We have, for instance, the Department for Human Settlements, which has set aside a quota of 15% of all houses that the RDP houses that they are building, taking into cognizance that we have a percentage of 9.7 people with disabilities in the whole country. We believe 15% is more than adequate in terms of housing. What is important is for us to ensure that on the ground, these policies are implemented, these targets are met. The private sector is not doing well in terms of empowering, economically and assisting people with disabilities to set up programs. We have not really seen, in terms of procurement, the private sector coming on board to say that our policy is 2% for employment.
I was just about to get to that
and
part, that 2%.
4% for skills transfer, and also 5% for procurement.
Oh, okay.
But they are very slow in terms of procurement, in terms of also job creation. But they are doing better in terms of jobs, because they are at 1% and government is still at 7%. So we need to do more in that regard.
Now, just before we leave you, we're just going to run out of time quickly. The disabled people of South Africa claim that government is actually not even involving them in a lot of decision-making that involves disabled people. What are we going to do about that? So obviously, there needs to be clearer channels of communication in that aspect.
Well, I think in the last few months, I've had a number of meetings with people with disabilities. Also, my department has met with people with disabilities. We are adopting a policy, an open door policy, and a month ago, we're able to employ a DDG who will be responsible for people with disabilities. And therefore, we believe that that will take us far in terms of ensuring that we work closely with their organizations. Even this afternoon, I was in Richards Bay. I met two of their organizations. One of them, Zamani. It's an organization in Richards Bay, where they are doing a number of projects to empower themselves.
So there are ways of communicating and getting through this industry. Minister Mamululu Klungwana, thank you very much for joining us right here on our pre-election show. Minister Klungwana is the Minister of Women, Children and People with Disabilities, and she was joining us, just giving us a little bit more about what's going on in her department. Don't go away, we'll be back with more election news just after the break. Stay with us.
A long time ago, I started using Robertson's herbs and spices to season chicken. I combined chicken spice and rosemary with lemon juice and spread the mixture under the skin so the flavors cook right through. Things have changed over the years, but not the way I cook chicken. Robertson's, what's your combination?
SMS chicken to 33729 to receive this tip.
Join One Life Direct for the most simple and affordable life cover. A 33-year-old female can get R500,000 worth of life cover for around 115 Rand a month. A 44-year-old male, R1 million life cover for around 475 Rand a month. A 36-year-old male for around 320 Rand a month. And a 26-year-old female, 750,000 Rand life cover for around 140 Rand monthly. Simply SMS LIFE to 38931 and we'll call you back. One Life Direct is an authorized financial services provider.
I can see clearly now the rain has gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. I can see clearly now the rain is gone. It's gonna be a bright,
Nescafe Ricotti. Share the fresh percolator taste.
And welcome back to our pre-election program. Now we're back in time for our regular slot on our program in which smaller parties, political parties that is, get around 60 seconds once around the clock to pitch their case to you at home and why you should vote for them. Now in Port Elizabeth, church and community leaders have formed a party which they call the African Community Movement. Let's hear what they have to say.
We want to change the focus of led by the political parties to make sure that all the community take the advantage of their democracy, take the advantage of their votes to secure their democracy. So we said as church leaders we should take the step forward to make sure that we will provide a proper service to the people. Definitely in all the provinces the leading party is failing. So that is why the church leaders took that decision, including with the community leaders. So the African Community Movement is based on the community, not as a political parties.
Now, in recent years, government has increased its child support grant in an effort to provide for the most vulnerable in the communities. But some children who have been orphaned and who had head households often have no access to any kind of help. Linda Mgobozi filed this report for the program.
It's 7 o'clock in Current Village. Two of the Mdlulu orphans are preparing to go to school. Both their parents died in 2008 and they were left to fend for themselves.
Since the death of our mother, we had to get by without government grants or help from our neighbors. We all survived on my baby's grant.
Two of the older siblings dropped out of school when they fell pregnant, and now both care for their babies. The youngest of the sisters is a grade 10 learner at the local school. She says she usually misses school because she can't afford the bus or taxi fare to get to school.
I sometimes go to school without having a meal. It's hard. It's difficult to concentrate at school. My uniform is old and torn.
Nomusa has only one wish.
I want to study to become a social worker. I have experienced hardships and would love to help others in a similar situation.
The plight of the children was highlighted by police who were investigating rape cases involving two of the girls. The case against a suspect who's believed to have repeatedly raped the girls starts next week. Government has started to mobilize communities and women to participate in the adoption and fostering of the orphans. It's also called on the private sector to assist in building more children's homes.
We're encouraging communities to also participate, and we're also saying to the private sector they must make a contribution because the need for children in South Africa and orphans is great, and therefore they must make a contribution in building of homes.
Residents from the village say the plight of the orphans will be on their minds when they cast their vote in 2 weeks' time.
When casting my vote, I will be hoping that the plight of orphans will be one of government's priorities. I hope they will be kept in secure places, given food and all the basic necessities.
Studies show that there are over 100,000 child-headed households in South Africa. Linda Mgobozi, SABC News, Richards Bay.
Now, Hout Bay boasts some of the most luxurious properties in South Africa, but it's also home to a community that's been living there since the 1930s. The area has historically been a DA stronghold, but that is now under question after violent clashes between residents of Hamburg and police last year over housing and development shortages in the area. Crystal Audison revisited the area and filed this report.
A day that residents of Hamburg will never forget. The day saw running battles with police that left several injured. It left the community scarred and afraid. At the heart of the clashes were these structures. The city of Cape Town said they were illegal and the land should not be occupied. The conflict centered around who had access to land, housing, and several empty promises made by political parties over the years. And on the 21st of September, it all came to a head. Fast forward 6 months later, a community still in trauma. This 35-year-old mother of two, Oriel Kluter, lost her eye in the battle.
Still feeling the same. I can't get used to that I lost my eye.
Not far away is another casualty of the day. Karel de Jager was minding his own business, standing outside his house when 7 policemen allegedly started hitting him. He's lost use of his one finger and says his legs are giving him serious problems.
When it's very cold, my legs are cold. I can't move my legs. I didn't make trouble to deserve this. I didn't do anything to deserve this.
The clashes left the community bruised and angry. A court battle ensued, but the court asked for mediators to get involved. A peace and mediation committee has since been set up.
It was needed actually for Hout Bay, that Hout Bay has really been put on the map, and specifically Hamburg itself. So the peace and mediation process managed to bring that down. Because remember, we only had 4 questions right in the beginning. And that was that one, that government must take Hamburg serious. If they do take us serious, are they prepared to build a relationship with this community? 3, if they're really prepared to build that relationship, then actually they must exactly give a full commitment of working with this community. But that commitment in writing.
Lowe says the committee has helped the community to prioritize what is important and how to move forward.
With the local government elections coming up, there's quite a lot of pressure been put on the peace and mediation process, based on that everybody wants to have their cut from it itself. So we're just saying that the course, it must go the way it's supposed to go. We feel strongly to stick actually to the mandate of the request of this community, right? And that government's supposed to do what they're supposed to do.
But at the heart of the conflict still lies the illegal structures and the lack of housing in the area. It's an issue that political parties will have to answer as they campaign for votes. Hout Bay is an area, like so many South African cities, where 2 worlds operate in the same area, one exceptionally rich and the other extremely poor. State housing was provided for the poor way back in the 1940s to ensure a cheap supply of labor for the fishing industry. As the industry expanded, the population grew and a shortage of housing developed. Auntie Betty, as she's affectionately called, knows all too well about this history. She's been living in the area since the 1960s and complains bitterly about the lack of facilities.
See what this looks like. It's dirty. There's no playground for the children. In the afternoon, the children play in the backyard. They break your windows because they don't have any place to play. This is what I'm talking about. And there's a tap in the backyard so that they can clean the place.
Analysts say Hangburg is but one community that highlights the legacy of apartheid architecture. A report by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, pointed out that land use and planning regulations hamper housing delivery in Cape Town, and it continues to be shaped by apartheid practices. With a local government election ahead, residents here say all they want is for whomever is voted into power to stay true to their promises. That promise is decent homes for people and heal a community hurt by violence and repeated promises of development. Crystal Audison, SABC News, Hangburg, Hout Bay.
Well, that's the show for tonight. Leanne and I will be back on Monday for more election news. And don't forget to follow the show on our website, sabc.co.za. And don't forget on Sunday, catch the live debates. That will be on SABC1 as well as SAFM. Those election debates are normally pretty heated. And this weekend, the development of rural areas. Do politicians and government care? So it should be expected to be another bustling one. Do catch us again next week, Monday. Cheers. Have a wonderful week.